The song Consciously was my first introduction to Sheena Ringo as a song and as an artist. I was initially hesitant to listen to the album it came from, Japanese Manners, for fear of it not meeting my expectations. You see, when you hear a song by an artist and then go to the album it's from, it's hit or miss at best. However, not only did this album live up to the hype, it exceeded my expectations in every way. I found myself coming back to this album on a weekly or monthly basis, and I believe this is Sheena Ringo's best album. It's a musical roller coaster from start to finish of jazzy and orchestral tracks that flow one into the next. Allow me to further expound on Japanese Manners by Sheena Ringo and why it's her at her best. Some history. This album was made in collaboration with Nico Saito. Saito is a violinist, composer, and musical arranger. He and Sheena first worked together when he performed the strings on her first album. A lot of these tracks are his arrangements that would be used during Ringo's live performances when she would be touring. This album is actually a soundtrack to the 2006 film based on the manga Sakuran Blossoms Wild by Moyoko Ano. For context on what the film is about, here's the Cliff Notes version. The film follows a young girl named Kyoha, sold into being a prostitute at a brothel. She's feisty and defiant, leading the owners of the brothel to think that she could be the future Oiran. The Oiran being the star or number one prostitute in the whole spot. Through her skill and beauty, she quickly begins ascending to the top, gaining customers and rivals alike. Along the way, she meets a man and they do fall in love. This complicates things for Kyoha as now her heart isn't in her work, literally. Is she ever able to free herself and escape from this lifestyle? Does she fall in love and run off into the sunset in the end? Well, I won't spoil it, but do watch or read to find out. Having watched the film, this gives context to the Japanese title,
平成風俗
which when translated could be either Japanese Manners or Prostitute Manners, depending on how you translate it, which relates to the subjects and themes of the film. More on the music, what really stands out to me is the jazzy elements to keep things fresh. The polyphony of the band working in harmony organically but also mechanically in a sense too. The sum of the parts doing their own thing, adding to the song as a whole. Each song flows into the next one, making it a cohesive listening experience. Nothing feeling out of place or outright skippable. Upon discovering this is essentially a remix album of previous works surprised me, as I'm usually not a fan of them. In my opinion, the person that remixes a musician's tracks the best is the original musician. Fortunately, this holds to be 10,000% true here, as Saito and Ringo's collaboration for this soundtrack is masterful. However, simply calling this a remix album doesn't do it justice, as they aren't just one-to-one renditions of tracks you've heard before. Rather, they're new arrangements of familiar tracks with jazzy and orchestral elements added, or same ingredients but different recipe. Most of the tracks here appear on her 2003 album Kaku no Sama, and a few others from around the way. One thing in a song or album, or just a piece of work in general, I love is that sense of adventure. In other words, a lack of predictability. Keeping the structure of verse, chorus, maybe a bridge and an outro is a tried and true method for formulating a song. However, adding different solos and effects throughout the track helps keep things fresh, which this album does frequently. I found that on each re-listen I can focus on a different element and enjoy something new. This time I'll focus on the bass line, the piano, the drums, the strings, or the vocals. And there's always a new detail each time. Each song is good in its own right, but seamlessly flowing one into the next, keeping the tempo like water. Sometimes it'll be slow, like a waltz. Other times playful, or bombastic. It's truly an emotional roller coaster. All this to say that this is one of the top 10 albums I've ever listened to. My criteria as someone who doesn't listen to music regularly is how much I revisit it, its cohesiveness, and ultimately how much I enjoy the songs. The best musicians experiment, evolve, and change their sound with every album. Perhaps being known for one genre but never sticking strictly to the associated conventions of said genre and doing their own thing from time to time. I highly recommend to anyone watching right now to go and listen to it. As one final note, if you need any more convincing, the album cover has a yellow cat for Nico Saito on it. With that said, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something new. Please like and subscribe.